to Onesies, a podcast of one-season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
And my name's Emily.
And we are almost halfway. We just crossed the
Third.
That doesn't sound as nice as quarter.
No.
Sadly, folks, I don't have the voice to do a whole world peas thing here, but I would. Google it, children. So we are on episode 8 of Dracula the series, Damsel in Distress. It is our first two-parter. It's the second part of our first de facto two-parter. It's not that official. But last episode, we left off with Mom in a meeting with Alexander Lucard in her first appearance since the pilot. And so we are gonna get to that in a second. But first, we are gonna go over our 3 things for the episode. What do you got?
So I've got King Weenie, I've got Perfect Couples, and I've got Christian Slater impression.
I've got Folding Phone.
Oh yes,
Fräulein Townsend, and Chris is a fucking cheating American boy.
Okay.
There you go. So we open with an establishing shot of the countryside. Okay, we also
where did that come from?
And it appears to be across the street, which we know it's not because there's a soccer pitch across the street. There's a football pitch. Okay, so we also need to establish. Emily watched this on Tuesday or something.
Wednesday, I think,
and was ecstatic about it before I got to watch it. So I went into it ready to be amazed, and I was. But I was at first like, are there going to be horses in this? Like, what's going on? Why are we looking at the countryside with horses? And then we immediately go to the house and we're like, you live it. First of all, it's a different house than the pilot.
Yeah.
Second of all, you live in the stupid Luxembourgian town.
You live in a city.
I didn't write any of the names down, and we're probably not going to talk about it later. They mention the name of every town and neighborhood in the area at some point in this. And it's just like, we've never heard these words before.
No. No. And I like you said, I wasn't too worried about it. Like I heard it and I was like, okay, whatever, just some random place. I had no interest in learning. Well,
they're not even cool names. Like Dracula is in some like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not like some cool, like, it's not Transylvania Avenue or something.
No.
Okay. We open with Max. And his breakfast. And then my first note is, what's Max doing? Answer, making a fucking mess. He drops his food, this useless child. And I mean, I microwaved a retainer once, and I still am better than Max. Don't look at me like that. Lit on fire in the microwave.
That's cool.
Okay.
Fire.
Mom comes downstairs. So this is apparently a direct continuation of last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And Max is like, I'm making lunch before we go to the zoo.
Yeah.
And Mom's like, fuck off, kid. I've got to get out of this house.
And basically. My note is, even Mom doesn't like her kids. And I was like, wow.
I mean, justified, right?
Yeah,
she did drop them off with this creepy old dude who she doesn't know is a vampire hunter because she doesn't know vampires are real. Yeah. So that's weird enough. Like Uncle Gustav's house for nubile teens and such. Yeah. Gustav is not a pervert. I will establish that.
Yes, he is not.
So far. Wait a second. No. Only when it's about... He
does inexplicably have a 15-year-old girl living with him.
He does have
not
that,
related to him.
He also is really supportive of like 10-year-old boys and 35-year-old women. That is like his dream, which is a weird dream to have at age 70. But whatever. So we cut to Mom's meeting at I got the name somewhere in here, the World Fiscal Network.
Which is where we meet King Weenie, Carl Brewer.
Carl Brewer, played by Tom Wood.
He is another bow-tied, bespectacled weenie who lives in Luxembourg, and he's doing business with Mom, Eileen.
Yeah. And coming on strong.
Really strong. I kind of got the creeps, but he's also bumbling and like total incel type. Like,
I mean, he's a French, or he's a Canadian TV show Rick Moranis, kind of. He's a Canadian TV show Peter Scolari, even. Yeah, like he's not even a comparison to somebody's been in movies. I mean, Rick Moranis is a movie star. Rick Moranis is one of a kind, folks. That's what I'm saying. Which is true. He's fine. Whatever. Okay, off of Rick Moranis. Also, dude talks in a French accent and brags about like the French he's been learning or something.
Yeah.
But he mispronounces everything. And this is part of his game.
So in my mind, this is somebody really desperately trying to impress somebody and doing it badly, which makes me laugh, but also it's like, ugh, awkward and uncomfortable.
Well, especially because it's a show from 1991. We are going to establish that to be a successful businesswoman in this time, you have to be as cutthroat as the men, is sort of the gimmick.
Yeah.
So they actually even emphasize that later. So it's like, it's weird and problematic in one way, and then it's just silly in another, and then there's a whole third layer to it. And then a fourth, given the reveal. But he invites her to dinner. And she's like, he gets one look at her and he's like, I think we should discuss this deal over dinner.
Again, like, when it's okay to sexually harass somebody that you're working with, like, and it's not just like, hey, maybe we should discuss this over dinner. It's like wink, wink, like practically licking his lips. We should discuss this over dinner. It's so disgusting. It's so
her response is
gross.
Ooh, that's a great idea. Let's have dinner tomorrow night with Alexander Lucard. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that. She establishes she's working with Lucard at this point. So like her bank, Pennsylvania Industrial, which is making waves all over Europe with its investments. I'm just like, that's not a real, nope, not a real thing. Sorry. We'd know because it would have gotten fucking bailed out. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so then he's disappointed, but they're gonna go to dinner. He's gonna go to dinner at Lucard's, and this is when we mention where Lucard's house is and the name of the town, which is apparently different. His castle. We're also going to establish that the kids can get to Lucard's castle in about 3 minutes flat.
On their bikes or on their feet or however they do it, they can get there in 3 minutes.
Right.
Whatever way they decide to do it.
Fucking fly over because they're vampires too. That'd be a great twist. It's not good enough for that. Okay. So we cut back to the house where it's just Gustav and the boys. And I was actually curious what Mia Kirshner was going to be doing this episode because I don't think the mom's ever acknowledged her presence.
Yeah. I think they met in the first episode, shook hands, but it was literally just to establish the character to us.
Yeah. So, and she's like in the background. She comes into the scene at the end and asks what's going on. So they tell her again if you missed it.
Yeah.
But yes, so the boys are moping because mom didn't take them to the zoo. And Gustav is like, your mother doesn't know how to show it, but she loves you boys.
No, I thought he was like, oh, your mother's the kindest, most caring person I know. I can't imagine why she would do that. Oh,
yeah, that's right. He gaslights them first.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a fucking vampire slayer and, like, has zero critical thinking skills and yet has survived to this age.
Yeah.
Living down the street from his arch nemesis. Oh, okay. So he calls up mom on her folding phone.
Oh, man, that was brilliant.
Which also brought up, I'm like, you're a fucking vampire hunter. You should have a cell phone if they exist.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, oh, yes, let's be Luddites with this stuff. You could put holy water in a super soaker, dickhead. Like, whatever. Okay. So she hangs up on him.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm busy. He's like, well, these kids said you were taking to the zoo. That can't be right because you're not taking to the zoo. And then it's like, click. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'd hang up on you too, Gustav. Like, fuck off. To which we then cut to Lucard being there when she closes her phone.
Mm-hmm.
And dun, 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 they're all together.
And mom is seemingly DTF. She is to go. Like, their chemistry is so good. They might be bad actors, but their chemistry was real good in this.
I mean, they met on the first one. They're like, if I ever come back, do you want to fuck? And he's like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so,
even though I'm a vampire and I have no blood flow.
Oh, you meant the stars. I meant the actors. Or you meant the characters. I just meant the actors. No, whatever. They really they really get along.
It turns these two people who are otherwise bad actors into people I want to watch on the screen. The two of them together.
Yeah, we'll get not quite yet here, because here we still think Mom is about to be normal and just a shitty business mom who's about to stumble into this because she doesn't listen to her 9-year-old son. Okay, but this is where we have Chris the fucking cheat. So we cut back to the house because it's Dracula the series, so we, scenes last 14 seconds. And then we cut ahead. Also, though, this day makes the timing of this episode makes absolutely no sense. Like, it seems like the events seem like it should take place over 2 days, but it's just so weird. They're coming down, and we actually have never seen this before because the camera pans, or would it be technically? Yes, panning is across, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is why it's probably good that I didn't waste my money on film school. Pans across, but we established that there is a park across the street, or at least something that could stand in for a park, because the kids are coming down off the park and going across the street, and Chris is moping, and he's like, "Go, go, Sophie! Why'd you have to do that? Nobody noticed. Go!" And they get into the house, and he's like, "Go, Gustav." Or Gustav's like, "How was your soccer game?" And I'm like, Gustav wouldn't have said soccer.
Nope.
Would he have? Nope. How was your game of footy? You little hooligans. There, it's the extent of Ted Lasso vocabulary didn't stick. Okay. And Chris is like, "Oh, Miss Fair Play over there wouldn't let me win. She took away my one moment of glory." Because she told the referee that he was out of bounds. And you're like, okay, so this wasn't the three of you playing. You cheated in an actual soccer game.
Yeah.
And now you're upset that you got caught for cheating.
Yeah.
Chris went on to become vice president of the United States of America. Okay. So what? Oh, they talk again about Mom, and Gustav is starting to get worried. Nope. And then I have the note that this is where Max says she was tired looking and said she had to get out of the house, which sets off a light bulb over Gustav. And it should set off a light bulb over you, dear listener, because a lot of continuity this episode.
Yeah.
But not until the last 4 minutes. Okay. So then there's a knock at the door.
Mr. Weenie is standing out there in the same outfit he was wearing, I guess, that morning.
Yeah, because he's there to
because it's the same day,
lunch.
even though it makes no fucking sense.
He
wants to take her to lunch with a huge bouquet of roses. And
sadly, he does not say, "I was wondering if she was available for a matinee."
And like, in my mind, Uncle Gustav, an older gentleman, that's fine, is like, thinks it's charming that this stranger is coming after his niece, cousin, whatever relationship they have, with this huge bouquet of flowers and asking her to lunch. I thought it was rather creepy and awkward and still weird, but maybe Gustav just doesn't have that experience. Also, this seems like kind of a small little village. Wouldn't he know these people? Well, no, how could it be a small village if there's like some international bank office there? Like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm shocked that, oh, there's a bug. I'm shocked that he takes it so casually. It's the same thing with the little boy and his crush on the older lady. It's like he just takes it so casually, and it's not like, "Oh, who are you? Why are you asking my relation out on a date? Like, where did you meet her? How is this happening?
Especially
who the fuck are you?
Is Fräulein Townsend here?"
Yeah,
and it's like,
Fräulein.
okay, I get the French, but like, No, I'm gonna lay on the dramatic to seduce her. I got a real like she likes the Aryan vibe.
Oh,
But yeah, and Carl is weird again, and then he gives him a note, and he's like, "All right, well, give her these flowers and give her this note, and I'll see you later."
the note is pre-written, by the way, and he says he gives it to her like, "Sorry, it says like something like, "Sorry, I missed you." So that would set off alarm bells for me if like you brought this note with these flowers expecting to take her to lunch. Why would you say, "Sorry, I missed you"?
This scene also makes no sense in context of the reveal later.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, I guess it does. Wow, that's an intricate plan for this shit. Okay.
But
so,
the note also says, I can't wait to see you at dinner at Lucard's tomorrow or whatever. And then the alarm bells are going off for
first, Gustav brings it in the house, and Chris was like, "Who was that?" And I was like, "Some horn dog who wants to fuck your mom." But instead, Gustav says, "A flighty fellow who wants to go to lunch with your mom." Oh, also, you forgot they call it Chez Lucard.
Oh, yes. Chez Lucard. Stupid.
And then the boys immediately panic, like, "Mom's working with Lucard. What the hell's going on? We got to do something." And Gustav's like, "Oh, calm down. We're going to call her again." And then she doesn't answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So then we get this wonderful pre-cell phone era moment where Gustav's going to go meet this guy who theoretically should be just down the block.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to go to his office. Gustav gives the card to the kids and is like, "If you need to get a hold of me, this is where I'll be." So they now can notify this office where Gustav is, because, that's just how the world worked in television back then, of being able to get a hold of somebody for a scene. You had to establish where somebody was before.
Yeah.
See The Godfather, for example. Okay, so they're like, "Oh, Lucard might be waiting," and he's going to go anyway or something. Or no, is that for them? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We cut immediately after that to the kids moments later after Gustav's left.
And Sophie's trying to convince them to stay. Like, Gustav told us to stay here. We can't go anywhere. And they're like, "It's our mommy. We have to go save mom." And then
you wouldn't understand, Sophie. You're a bastard.
You don't have a mom. I don't know. I don't know if Sophie has a mom.
Is that ever going to get explained? I hope it does.
I don't know.
Okay. So then they get on their bikes. And I think this is the first time we've ever got a shot of the bikes. This seems like the second or third most expensive episode, actually. Even though there isn't a lot of CGI, and not counting the Kim Coates, however much they paid him.
Yeah.
But either to fly him over or to get him to take the plane up to Canada. So, but yeah, we actually get yet another panning shot, because it's not fucking Alan Eastman, it's some French guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, the fucking Van Gogh painting! I forgot.
Oh yes, I forgot that too. I didn't even write it down. Oh, that was so good.
Okay, so the scene also makes no sense. By the end of the scene, it makes no sense. But it's Lucard and Mom in his office building, they're at the castle. They're at the castle.
I think they're at the castle. Yeah.
And he's standing next to this painting, and it's, first of all, it's not clearly him. Second of all, it's only, it's Van Gogh. It's more like a Van Gogh than it's like a Picasso. More like a Van. I was actually just thinking, I was just trying to be smart there, folks. But basically, it does not look much like a Van Gogh.
It's an AI Van Gogh
from 1990.
From 1990, that kind of resembles Alexander Lucard.
And we will have T-shirts available. Fuck it, that one, that's happening. Merry Christmas to you. We will have T-shirts for that. Fuck it. Nobody's gonna catch us. So they're talking about how he's not like her other businessmen. And then he says, I like to seize on to something and hold it until every drop of essence is extracted. And he's like, I don't find a lot of women who are like that. And Mom's like, oh, don't you? Because I'm like that. And so
this is the most awkward flirtation scene ever.
We're both ruthless business people. Don't know why I'm doing a Natasha Boris accent. Yeah, it's my Jordy Johnson, I think. So I think at this point he starts talking about Van Gogh, and
for some reason too, it's like I don't know why.
It's weird. It's so weird because he's bragging. No, he's bragging, and it makes even less sense in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. So then, and Mom's like, also not going to make sense in a few seconds. Alexander, that's you. How could it be a Van Gogh?
Yeah.
Chris and Max get there to grab Mom and take her out. We'll explain later. But then, okay, so Lucard left the room. Now he returns to the room wearing Van Gogh's hat. And he's like, look, I've got his hat.
Look, I got a souvenir. Yeah.
Oh, look, it's the U.S. Cavalry. Real deep cut to your dad who's watching the show like John Wayne Cavalry movies, 1991. And then Mom reveals she's already a vampire.
So there's some physical changes that happen with Mom.
Yes.
So not only does she get the teeth, which are terrible, her teeth are terrible, but her hair, which is like a typical kind of short 90s perm, gets just a little bit bigger.
Yep.
And she looks so hot. I hate to be sexist. She looks so hot as a vampire, except for the teeth, which are bad. She deserves to be a vampire. Give this woman eternal life. Let her suck my blood. She's hot. Whatever.
She also gets out of that one that one power suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the boys run out of there and they start dancing. And this is where we establish that Emily's going to love this couple.
I love them. They are a power couple.
Okay. So we're going to have to go over some real quick problems here. She knows he's Dracula, presumably at this point, which means she knows that he would have been alive when Van Gogh was alive. So that makes no sense.
Or that he could have potentially been alive.
Right.
Yeah.
We also know that he has turned her, which we never will see the turning.
No.
But presumably he would. So we've established that Dracula, I think it was last episode, do we establish that? No. Oh no, I'm mixing up my Draculas. So I'm also reading Tomb of Dracula, the comic. And one of the things in that was he just lost his human familiar. And he's like, I should have known something was wrong because I didn't have to make minorly brainwash her like all the other mortal women so she doesn't smell my decaying flesh.
Ew.
But also makes sense. Okay, yeah. So I got those confused. Tomb of Dracula, sadly, is much better than Dracula's series. Okay, but but he would have known at least, like he's controlling her. He controlled all the other people he turned.
Yeah.
Right. And so like him getting her to like be all hot and bothered by his capitalist greed, that's him like playing with himself. Like
yeah.
The show unintentionally has so much depth. But then we cut to Gustav in the office with
Carl,
and it's afternoon. It was nighttime in the castle. Also, Mom was out during the day. Lucard presumably was out during the day, even though I think he had his blinds were closed. So everybody's got that sunblock from episode 4, from the Boffin episode. Yeah. So, but then it's the afternoon, and Gustav is in the office at the World Financial Network with Carl, and he's like, I'm worried she's in trouble. And Carl's like, She's not in trouble, but you are. Ha ha ha. He's a vampire too.
Reveal. Yeah.
During the day.
During the day.
He was outside in the direct sunlight earlier.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter since they can clearly change, what time it is.
And before the Boffin episode, they had been out during the day, and we had this conversation about how their powers are diminished during the day and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is kind of weird, but the fact that he's turning during the day is surprising.
Yeah, it's that was back when we thought there was a lot of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel continuity.
How wrong we were.
I mean, this is better, but Dracula the series is more entertaining than Dracula the novel. Okay, so we cut to the kids calling Gustav at the office. Thank goodness he left him the card. And then Max is like, wait a second. This isn't the World Fiscal Network building. I ride my bike past there all the time. That's not the address. I'm like, it must be a trap. And then we return to the dungeon for the first time in a while.
Yes. Yeah.
We're back in the dungeon. We're back in Lucard's Hall of Armor. Like, we're going back to the old... I can't believe they kept these sets around.
I know.
Like, it's incredible. Okay, so they're in the dungeon. They throw Carl in. Okay, this is when...
They throw Gustav in.
They throw Gustav in. When does Mom show up?
Sophie shows up at some point.
Sophie shows up, but Mom... Is this where Mom finds out about Carl? Or no?
Yes. When Carl brings Gustav in.
Yes, because Mom is there for... I love how memorable this apparently was.
Yeah.
Mom is there for that because Gustav begs her to renounce him.
Mm-hmm.
And her response is, renounce him? I adore him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which will come back. This whole idea of renouncing Dracula, which is...
Well, it has some continuity suggestions for the Klaus episode too. There are actually two things. Yeah. So there's a couple things we can talk about. But so they lock him up, and then the kids show up. Okay, so hold on. Tricked You is for the mom. So Lucard reveals to Mom that he knows Carl, whose real name is Harold, and that it was all a setup.
Yeah.
The whole meeting was a setup just to make sure she was properly on board with being a vampire.
Yeah.
Also implies Lucard has not really told Mom that he's going to fucking kill her kids, which is weird.
Yes.
Like, because the way last episode threatened this occurrence was he must have something even worse in plan for us than coming in here when we're undefended and killing us.
Mm-hmm.
He does not have something better planned than that.
He's going to turn them, though, isn't he?
This seems like a bit of a long con when he could have just done that in the first place last episode. Like, what, he wants Mom to? Well, apparently, yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so kids are running through the paper mache dungeon. Oh, this was funny. When they let themselves in, Sophie's like, be really careful, Chris. I know you're like excited or you're worried about your mom, but you still need to be careful. I'm like, Max is right there. They're just like, nah, man. Like, I don't care if Max fucking dies. Like,
but I also feel like this in this scene is when Chris starts turning into like Christian Slater a little bit. It's like his voice dropped, like his balls dropped.
Yeah, I think his voice changed between,
and he's a little bit cooler, a little bit more like Christian Slater. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I was like, I think I even wrote, did Chris go through puberty?
Sophie finally pulled them down. She was sick of talking about baseball. So, so they run through the paper mache thing. Carl Harold grabs Sophie she's fighting to get away from him. They're getting out the holy water and the crosses. Well, and Carl's using her as a shield, but then
so Sophie has this moment of genius. Continue. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
she's so
good. They're backing up down the tunnel, and off to the side is Gustav's cell.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gustav, I think, makes some sort of noise or he calls to Sophie, and she looks and then pushes Carl into the door handle, which is made of wood and can zap him, which it does with special effects. And then, or does she open the cell first? And then with the door handle up, she impales him.
I think she pulls the door open, so it's in place. The door handle's in place, and maybe Gustav pushes the door open, or she pulls the door open, and it just gets him right, and then he disappears, and it's great.
Yeah,
it was genius. Way to go, Sophie. I mean, she didn't have a lot to do in this, but she killed the weenie who was trying to kidnap her again. She's trying. The 15-year-old girl's trying to get kidnapped, or not trying, is getting kidnapped.
Okay, so they put holy water on Gustav's neck and it cleans off the bites, which is, what else is that happening? Does that happen in Bram Stoker's? Maybe, I
have no idea. I've never seen it or read it.
No, the movie that they pour the holy water on and it comes off like dust. Oh, I don't think it's Innocent Blood. It's some vampire movie. And then Gustav's okay, and they're like, well, we've got to go take care of this. And they're like, you can't, what about our mom? And he's like, we're going to seal her up in a crypt until we figure out what to do about her. And I was like, he never told them about Klaus. And I'm just like, this is just who this dude is. So basically, vampire hunters are just psychopaths, is what it seems like. It just like, vampires are not necessarily psychopaths. Yes, Lucard is, but that's because he's a fucking capitalist pig. Like,
fair enough.
So anyway, I'm sure there's a great vampire commune somewhere in this universe. Oh god, that's right. This is where Lucard's got fucking telepathy. Yeah, they don't know about Klaus. So we cut to Lucard and Mom dancing or something. And he's like, wait, your children have just freed, what's his face?
Gustav.
And she's like, how do you know that? He's like, I'm Dracula.
Again, just showing off. All he's doing is just posturing.
This whole time. Yeah,
it's great.
He's like a peacock.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so great. I love watching it. I mean, it's so boring. It's so boring because he's just some dumb white man, but it's so funny to watch.
Yeah.
Because we don't see he has a little bit of personality. We just don't see that. Except him being a capitalist weirdo. We don't see him having a personality. So seeing him have this kind of personality and trying to impress Mom.
Right.
Weird.
Like at most all we've seen from this guy is trailer shots of Michael Douglas in Wall Street, and now we're getting something else. Except for when he and Klaus were
quoting Shakespeare.
Who could quoting Shakespeare and just being the fun gay couple down the street. Okay. So they're like, let's go surprise them. Yeah. And they turn into all the bats and fly off. And we're now in the Hall of Armor, King of the Wicker People. Did everybody look that up the last time I made the joke so everybody gets it? No. Okay. Okay, so where they land in the thing and they're running down the stairs and there's the fireplace, because it's the exact same action staging as every other action scene in this fucking room, is that the good guys come down the staircase and the vampires are already down there by the fireplace. And so Mom goes over to attack them on the staircase. And this is where Dracula says, I'm not a homewrecker, and that he's going to cherish the memory of this day even more than his portrait, which would imply that the portrait should have been established a long ass time ago. Yes. Maybe even in the pilot.
like in his office.
She sees it.
Yeah.
He donated it to that thing they went to.
Yeah.
And like she gets all enamored with his art history. Like, again, could be good.
And, you know, he's a vampire. He could make up some story about how this guy who kind of looks like him is like his great grandfather.
Exactly.
Like he could have done something.
So much stuff. Okay. And then he's like, all right, Mom, time to go kill Max. She's like, okay. She goes over, and then Chris tries doing something but can't do anything. I don't know why I have bad edits written down, but I'm sure there was some bad edits. Oh, it was because Mom kept like moving around.
Yeah. There was no continuity with her movements.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And then Lucard's like, do it. And Max is like, no, it's me, it's Max.
But he doesn't seem nearly as scared as he should.
No, because he wants to become a fucking, like, he's down. Max is down to become
at some point, though, it's like he had a grin on his face. And I was like, you can't be that bad of an actor.
Yes, he is. That's the only thing we've learned from this. Is the only consistent thing in this show, right? Like, Gustav's been okay. Jordy Johnson's okay this episode for Jordy Johnson. Like, this, that, the other thing. Max, there was that one time we thought he was getting better, and it was only because they were letting him play with fire on the set. That was it. He was like, is this fucking acid? And they're like, yes, if you drip it on yourself, you'll die. And he was like, all right, I'm scared of this stuff. But no, he was like putting holy water in balloons or something, right?
Yeah.
But still, he did a great job with that. I believe the kid could do that. Okay, so then she faints. And Dracula says this is impossible. And Gustav's like, get her out of here. I'm going to deal with Dracula.
Yeah.
And he goes over, if you ever mess with my cousin / sister / niece / whoever, she should be his niece based on
the age alone.
The pilot. But he's supposed to be her brother, I think. Uncle Gustav is what the kids called him first.
How come he's a Helsing and she's a Townsend and she doesn't have an accent and she lives in fucking Philadelphia, Ontario?
Crazy idea that they won't be smart enough to do. She's Klaus's
daughter,
wife or something. But they can't do it because the kids have seen Klaus, but like something like that. Klaus banged her, and then she lied about Max's parent. So anyway, but no. When it started, it was very definitely a relation situation, and now it's just like, no, she's just the old Sophie who he never told about.
Yeah, because Sophie calls him Uncle Gustav too.
Yeah,
and it's like, are you actually related? Because you were about to fuck your cousin then.
So, especially now that he's like Christian Slater, movie star Christian Slater. I don't know, what was he in? Pump Up the Volume's good. Okay, so then Gustav's like, don't you mess with her, I will destroy you. And I'm like, he's fucking Dracula. He lives down the street from you. Why aren't you trying to kill him every night? That's what the show is.
Why are you just threatening him when you have a stake in your hand and you're right next to him?
A magic stake, we'll learn in a second. And Dracula's like, what are you talking about, dude? All's fair in love and war. Like, whatever. Like, this is just part of the game. So Gustav then stakes the painting instead of Dracula, who's right next to the painting.
Right next to him, yeah.
And it's like, no, I can't. We're only a third through the season, or season order. The painting bursts into flames after having a little CGI flash effect. 1990 CGI. And why would it burst into flames?
Why would it burst into flames?
And it appears the stake punctures like some sort of energy shield. That's the CGI effect is. And then it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It was the weirdest choice. Unless it's a stake that's meant to, like, once it hits a certain thing, engulf itself in flames, right? So then when you stake a vampire, the vampire not only gets staked in the heart, but then gets burned.
That'd be cool, but Gustav didn't like new technology for vampire hunting. Okay, so then Dracula starts screaming, and Gustav's like, ha! what do you think of that? I guess you do know what it's like to lose something you love. And I'm like, this painting that he's had for 4 minutes on the show, like, fuck off. Okay. We cut back home. It's the next day. And
we have a big exposition dump.
Okay. Mom doesn't. Okay, so first of all, Mom's fine.
Yeah.
She had a vampire bite, but she's fine now. She got home, didn't remember anything, and Gustav gaslit her and was like, You've just been sick. It's your time of the month, lady.
No, he says you had a high fever and you were in bed all day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, he explains, he's like, well, what happened was Dracula must have bit her the night before she was supposed to take you to the zoo, which could have been the end of last episode. But she had a business meeting. That means she spent the day with Dracula. Okay. You don't want to see the episode where Dracula seduces her over the day?
Yes.
I know
I only want to see the episode where he seduces her. And I want them to stay vampires, and I want them to kill the children, and I want them to live some glamorous and campy vampire life together where they just take over the world with their capitalist greed and turn everybody into vampires, and it'll be beautiful and terrible and wonderful. That's what I want. Sorry.
Sadly, that's not what you're about to get. So the cross of the Magus. Remember that? The cross from episode 2 that hasn't had an establishing shot on it since episode 2? Like, it's there, but it never gets an establishing shot. Like, nobody's ever cleaning it. Max doesn't ever, like, walk by and look at it like, oh, remember that time I was coming to kill? And then Gustav explains that he's heard of it, but he's never seen it, that sometimes a vampire's curse can be broken by love. And Mom just loved you guys so much that the curse, which is a physical condition, by the way, like it's a chemical process in the body, right? Like it's not okay. I mean, it might be, they might call it magic, but it has, repeatable properties and things, can be broken by love. To which my note is, oh, so Claus just didn't love you, huh, Dad? Like, but also that dude who came over that in the Klaus episode was like, you need to help me get my wife back.
Yeah. Couldn't
Gustav was never like, did she love you enough not to be a fucking vampire? And he's like, no, look at me. Look at him. Look at me. No, she wants the vampire. Even Garrett Wynn Davies is better than this, dude. So yeah, that is also a possibility, that we don't need vampire cure juice. We don't need to lock vampires up. We just need to have a little love in our hearts, and the curse can be broken. However, it also, did she kill anybody?
I don't know. We don't know.
We don't know. No.
Huh.
But in the Stoker thing, it's the vampire sucks on her blood until she sucks on his blood, which I think we could assume that Mom did. Probably before she even knew he was a vampire.
Is that all that comes out when you're a vampire?
Well, no, because he actually in the movie slices his chest open in Bram Stoker's. I don't know if that's straight from the book, but because they don't have fucking circulation because they're dead. And then so we don't know. Mom should have probably killed somebody by now. She would have had to feed. Yeah. But maybe not, because Kim Coates never fed. Right? Like, there's the implication he never was able to kill anybody and had to eat. We also don't know how animals work in this universe.
Because the Kim Coates episode would have been the one to talk about it with.
Yeah.
Because he had to survive off of rats or something.
Right. Bugs. This is why we need the clapboard. Okay, so then after we establish that he still doesn't tell them about Klaus and he still doesn't bother him, that Klaus didn't love him enough, Mom comes down the stairs and she's just like, thank you for taking care of me, everyone. I feel so much better. Isn't it time to go to the zoo?
Freeze
doesn't he say all right, or did I just write that down?
I don't know.
We pause on Max being very excited to go to the zoo, and I'm like, why couldn't you just go to the zoo anytime you wanted? Like, Chris and Sophie they're not fucking right now. So they can take you to the zoo, dude. Like they go everywhere by themselves.
He wants to be with his mommy. He wants to spend time with his mommy.
That's why he was down to get turned, clearly.
So mom ends up being boring again. Lucard lives on, even though he had perfect opportunity to fucking murder him. The kids are still alive. God damn it. But overall, I loved the episode. I loved the chemistry between Lucard and mom. They are the perfect couple. I would watch that movie every day if they made a movie of that, of them just taking over the world. It would be beautiful. If Anne Rice were still alive, I wish I would ask her to adapt that for the screen.
It'd be pretty cool. And it'd be a lot better.
The two of them have never been more charming, never been better acting, never been more beautiful. The two of them together. It was great.
And it's also a far more interesting sort of setup than what we've been getting before, right? Yeah. Like we quickly proved that making Dracula a robber baron or whatever was not anywhere near as interesting as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so introducing like this female partner, an actual partner for him, someone that he's trying to impress or something, because the show has been really dismissive of mom as a business person, but like, if this were good, she could be good at her job, right? So like she's good at her job. So yes, it would make sense. Like Lucard is interested in her, not just to get back at the kids. Like it's rife with potential.
Yeah.
But instead we're watching this.
Yeah, it could change the dynamic between mom and the kids, obviously, and they would have more motivation to kill Lucard and try to get mom back. Yeah. I mean, this could have lasted the rest of the series, this arc of trying to get mom away from Lucard, and I would have loved it. Oh well.
We'll see who's back next episode.
We'll see who's back next episode. Let me pull it up. The next episode is called Mind Over Matter. It's episode 9. We're back to Alan Eastman directing. But we'll see.
Any guest stars? Uh-oh.
There's something about a psychic. So I don't have the IMDb pulled up. I have Wikipedia, so I don't know if.
Oh, good! I can't wait. To see how they deal with psychics.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and see you next time.
And the t-shirts are happening.
T-shirts are happening. Bye.